I have a test. I told you now.
Brinda, you'll have to mute everyone.
Jayashree ma'am and Pradeep sir, you'll have to unmute yourselves, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. We have got Dr. Jayashree Gopal, who is one of the senior most people in the field of endocrinology. And she has been supporting a zillion children around the world with Down syndrome in the subject of major issues like thyroid, diabetes, etc., etc. We also have Dr. Pradeep, who is going to be the moderator. And he is actually a pediatrician plus in the field of genetics. So I hand over to Pradeep, and Pradeep, you can please introduce Dr. Jayashree. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It is a privilege for me to be amongst you, and it is a great honor to introduce Dr. Jayashree Gopal. She's a renowned diabetologist, endocrinologist with 20 years of clinical practice. She currently leads the Institute of Diabetes, Endocrine, Metabolic and Lifestyle Health at SIMS Hospital, Nugambakam. She's a gold medalist right from class 12. She has completed her MBBS studies in MMC, Chennai. She then did her residency in internal medicine and fellowship in endocrinology and diabetes at Baylor College of Medicine, Houston, Texas. Followed by this, she did 2 years of research at the world-renowned University of Cambridge. She then worked in Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Ashington, UK as a specialist registrar in internal medicine, endocrinology and diabetes. Dr. Jayashree is a diplomat of American Board of Internal Medicine as well as a diplomat of American Board of Endocrinology, Diabetes and Metabolism. With her 2 decades of clinical experience, she has also authored several research papers and book chapters on diabetes, endocrinology and other hormonal disorders. More than academic performances, she has outreached the public also with an interesting scheme called the Kanji scheme for children in small village, where she made sure that these children receive fortified health mix containing cereals, pulse and milk. She was the convener of healthcare panel CII Chennai zone. She was involved in conceptualization and setting up of the Apollo Diabetes Center at Apollo Hospital, Chennai. We are very happy to have you here as a speaker, ma'am. And for all the family members of our federation, endocrinology is a very important part of our management of children with Down syndrome. We know there are so many systems which has to be managed, and the pick of the slot is this endocrinology. And I'm sure ma'am is the right person to enlighten us on endocrinology and health related to Down syndrome children. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep, for that very nice introduction. Before I get started, I would just like to ask Brinda to give me a call on the phone if I get cut, Brinda. Sometimes I've kept on talking and the presentation has stopped, so
Sure, ma'am.
I don't look at my chat, so just call me on the phone if that's
Sure, ma'am. I
Thank
will
you.
do that. Thank you,
Yeah,
ma'am.
thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back again with the parents of the Down Syndrome Federation. I think I joined you all at your annual meeting in Delhi. I believe that was in 2018. And I have been working with the children, with the parents to take care of the thyroid problems. And I'm a huge admirer of Dr. Surekha. So it's a pleasure for me to be here. And I would like to share my experiences and thoughts about the importance of thyroid and growth and development in children. Today, I'm not going to be talking about some other endocrine problems that actually, apart from thyroid and diabetes and other sort of metabolic related issues in older people with Down syndrome. So we have some people with Down syndrome above the age of say 40 or 50 who have other metabolic issues. Apart from thyroid, other endocrine issues are not very common in Down syndrome. So things like, for example, pubertal issues, all these things are not a common issue. They are as common as they would be even if this genetic issue wasn't there. So let me go ahead and get started. And at the end, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm just going to be sharing my screen. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with this sort of picture of the thyroid gland. And just to sort of reiterate, we call it a butterfly-shaped gland, which is present here in the front of the neck. It's a tiny little gland. It's in adults, it only weighs about 4 centimeters in the sort of the length. It's a small little gland, but it is important because the thyroid hormone is very essential for the normal metabolism of every single cell in our body, whether it be from our hair cell to the brain cell to the skin cell, down to our intestine, heart, lung. Every single cell in your body needs the thyroid hormone to function normally. And problems that affect the activity of the thyroid gland, whether it usually be underactivity, but whether it's underactive, overactive, some people have a swelling of the gland, all these things tend to impact upon particularly growth and development in children. Let me just turn on my laser pointer. Yeah. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what is called the TSH, because there's a lot of confusion among parents when they see the thyroid values. And I just want to sort of demystify some of the terms that are used. I think the terms you need to be aware of are really TSH, which stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And this is a chemical which is made by what's called the pituitary gland. And this actually works on the thyroid gland to stimulate it to make T3 and T4. So the T3 and T4 are the actual circulating forms of the hormone in the blood, but the actual form of the active hormone within the cell is the T3. So T3 and T4 are slightly different chemically. T3 has 3 iodine atoms per molecule. T4 has 4 iodine atoms per molecule of the thyroid hormone. That's the difference. You don't need to worry about this hormone. So the 3 important hormones that we need to keep in mind are TSH, T3, and T4. Like I mentioned earlier, the thyroid hormone has an important role to play in the metabolism of every single cell of our body. So for example, it affects things like digestion, functioning of the heart. In children, what we are most concerned about, not only in children, even before birth, in pregnant women, the thyroid hormone has a very important role for the development of the brain and the nervous system in the developing embryo and fetus. In children, particularly, it's very important for growth of bones. So growth, the height increase in children is very much linked to normal thyroid levels. It's important for things like contraction of muscles. Apart from this, for example, in young girls, it's important for normal thyroid levels are important for the onset of regular periods at a normal age. It is important for helping women to get pregnant. It is important for general sense of well-being. It's important for many, many things in our body. Now, moving on to why, just 1 second. So if you think about why is thyroid testing so important, particularly in Down syndrome, it's partly because thyroid levels are very, very important for normal growth and development. So if an underactive thyroid gland, what we call hypothyroidism, develops, growth and development may slow and even halt ultimately. And what is particularly important about the thyroid is because this is so easy to diagnose. It's just a simple blood test and very easy to treat. We have to just replace what is deficient in our body with tablets, and that will restore both the thyroid status and the growth back to normal. So this is just a graph. This is not necessarily someone with Downs, but just to point out, this is a child. So you can see that this is the normal growth charts. This sort of these range of lines that I mentioned here says that at a particular age, say at the age of 5 years, what is the normal range for the height for the child? So the growth charts, you can see that this child was growing normally till about the age of 3 years, then developed a thyroid problem, and the height growth was not there. So the growth became stunted. After thyroid hormone was introduced, the growth came back into the normal range, near normal height. So this is typically what is seen in undiagnosed, undetected, and untreated thyroid problems. This has become very, very rare, I would say, over the years, because doctors and even parents are very aware of thyroid problems. So it is quite common to see thyroid problems being thought of almost immediately for any sort of issue. Like I mentioned earlier, apart from its extreme importance in normal growth and development, it also has a very important effect on general well-being. So people who have an underactive thyroid gland generally tend to say, I feel very tired, doctor, I feel fatigued, I feel like I don't have enough energy. Now, this is something that an adult would be able to tell you, but in children, they're not going to come and say, oh, I'm feeling tired. So, but very astute and very attentive parents have come and told me, my child is not as active as earlier, doctor. She used to be a happy child running around, playing with the other kids. Now she's just sort of, sitting in a corner, refusing to play. So astute parents have picked up the thyroid problem and have brought it to the attention of their pediatrician, and the thyroid problem has been diagnosed that way. So an important clue to look out for, apart from other things that I'll be telling you about, an important clue to look out for is a child which has been active, healthy, and happy, becoming sort of dull and lethargic and withdrawn. That may be related to the thyroid. So this is important to keep in mind. And I told you about the regular menstrual cycles. That never is a problem in general in Down syndrome. If there is a thyroid issue, it can affect the normal cycle. So if that happens, again, you need to bring it to the attention of your doctor. Now, you'll commonly hear these terms being thrown about, hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. And hypo just basically means that the gland is underactive. It is not making as much thyroid hormone as the body needs. And hyper means that the gland is overactive and that the gland is making more thyroid hormone than the body needs. Both these types of problem can occur in children with Down syndrome. The hypo tends to be the most common type, far more than the hyper. So hypo accounts for nearly 90 to 95% of the type of thyroid problem that we see in children. Hyper is rare, but it does happen, and it is something that we need to be aware of. And how do we diagnose thyroid? It's usually diagnosed by measuring what is called the thyroid stimulating hormone. I mentioned this earlier. It is something which is made by the pituitary gland. Now, why do we use a hormone which is made by the pituitary gland to diagnose something about the thyroid gland? This is because the TSH, or the thyroid stimulating hormone made by the pituitary gland, is a much better indicator of thyroid activity than the actual T3 and T4 levels in the blood. So T3 and T4 levels in the blood may remain well within the normal range, but still not indicate that the gland is working less than optimal. Only the TSH value will tell you that the gland is working properly or not. So the TSH is a far more sensitive marker of thyroid function. So that is why we advise to check the TSH value as a screening diagnostic modality to find out if the thyroid is working properly or not. So what happens in hypothyroidism? I wouldn't worry too much about the hyper, but one thing we need to keep in mind is that the TSH and T4 and T3 go in opposite directions. So when T4 and T3 levels drop in the blood, the TSH tends to go up. Quite often we pick up thyroid problems at a very, very early stage. What do we mean by that? At a very early stage, what will happen is that in the blood, the T4 and T3 levels will remain within the normal range. And the only thing we may find is a slight elevation in the TSH values. So a slight increase in the TSH values. But that may be enough to indicate that the thyroid gland is working suboptimally, less than optimal, and that we need to intervene and start giving thyroid tablets. We do not necessarily need to wait for the actual T4 and T3. What I said was the active form of the hormone in the blood. We do not wait for it to drop below the normal range before we initiate therapy. So just a slight elevation in TSH may be enough to indicate underactivity of the thyroid gland. So what are the symptoms of the thyroid problem? So again, I'm going to focus mainly on hypothyroidism. Like I mentioned earlier, the thyroid has an effect on every single part of your body. So going from head to foot, thyroid problems can cause multiple symptoms. One very common symptom is hair fall. So generalized hair fall is one thing. Sometimes certain types of thyroid problem can also be associated with bald patches, something we call alopecia. So that can also occur. But quite often the most common symptom is hair fall, generalized hair fall for no reason. Tiredness. Like I mentioned, tiredness and fatigue is a very, very important clue to an underactive thyroid gland. Weight gain maybe, but not the reason I say maybe is because there is a big misconception that a lot of the weight gain that occurs, whether it be in children with Downs or otherwise, also is only occurring because of thyroid, and that is not true. So if the thyroid gland is underactive, it may cause a little bit of weight gain. What do I mean by a little bit of weight gain? Maybe 3 to 5 kilos. So if there has been, say, something like a 10 kilo weight gain or a 15 kilo weight gain inappropriately, not talking about growing children, but inappropriately in a very short period of time, it is unlikely to be due to the thyroid problem. So a little bit of weight gain, which is predominantly water retention. So one of the things that happens when the thyroid gland is underactive is the body tends to retain water, which is why quite often people with thyroid problems will say, when I get up in the morning, doctor, my face looks puffy, or my ankles tend to swell up in the late evening. This is not very common in children, but I have seen some children with very significant amounts of thyroid problem presenting with puffiness of the face. So puffiness of the face is a very important clue to a thyroid problem. Like I mentioned earlier, generalized slowing. A child that is active, running about, healthy, actively engaged with things around it becomes dull, withdrawn, sitting in a corner. We need to think about the thyroid. Changes in temperature. So what we call cold intolerance. So they are not able to tolerate cold. They are constantly trying to turn off the AC. So cold intolerance, if you touch them, sometimes they may have cold and dry skin. Skin also tends to become very dry and coarse. This is a very common problem actually in children with thyroid. Even as compared to adults, children seem to feel it more. So for example, if you just feel like this part of their elbows, it'll be very dry and coarse skin. That is again a clue to a thyroid problem. Loss of memory, particularly in children in the age group of say between 13 to 17 years, loss of memory is faced sometimes. Change in mood. Children can become depressed. They can become dull, but not just because they don't have energy. They just don't have the energy to do anything. And that is perceived as depression, but definitely there can be a change in mood because of thyroid. What I mentioned earlier, puffiness of the face, which is the water retention and the face puffing up. Dry, brittle hair, again, a very important clue to thyroid problems. Constipation. Now, constipation is by itself a very common problem in children with Downs, but a change from the normal pattern. So let's say your child is normally having a bowel movement every 2 days. Now it is sort of increased to say 4 or 5 days, or child finds it painful when he or she is trying to pass, going to the toilet, passing motion. So these are all symptoms of subtle dysfunction in the thyroid. Hyperthyroidism, which is an overactive thyroid gland, is associated with the opposite set of problems: weight loss, behavioral problems, irritability, tremors, diarrhea. I'm not going to go into detail about this, but remember that other things also. So since the symptoms are sort of so varied and so widespread, the way I tell parents with children in whom we are suspecting a thyroid problem is, if you notice anything out of the ordinary, anything at all, hair, skin, mood, weight, anything, periods in older children and people, anything out of the ordinary, think of the thyroid. I think that is the only way I can put it, because the thyroid has an important impact on every single part of your body. Coming back to the particular importance of thyroid function in this genetic issue, 7% of children may have hypothyroidism at birth. And by the age of 10 years, 30% may go on to develop a thyroid problem. And as we get older, the incidence and the prevalence of thyroid problems increases, so that by adulthood, it may reach even, say, 40 to 50%. So this is a very high number. And this is important to keep in mind, because this drives home the necessity of regular testing of thyroid. Whether or not there are symptoms present, we need to be checking the thyroid on a frequent basis and treating as necessary. So how frequently should my child be tested for thyroid problems? Definitely at birth. Now, some countries have what is called a universal screening policy, where every child after birth is checked for a thyroid problem. In India, that is not the case. It is not a government policy as yet. However, some doctors do it routinely. Some gynecologists recommend that all newborn children, whether or not the mother has a thyroid problem, whether or not there is any sort of genetic issue, that all children be screened for problems. But thyroid can be checked and should be checked in all newborn children. For children diagnosed with Downs, what I recommend is that the thyroid be checked every 6 months thereafter till the age of 4 years. The reason I say every 6 months, some guidelines recommend yearly once, is because the reason I say 6 months is because the age between birth and 4 years is the period of rapid growth. And at this time, if we can pick up something that can be treated easily with thyroid replacement, it should be looked for and treated, so that it does not impact upon the baby's, upon the child's ultimate growth potential. So from birth to 4 to 5 years, I recommend that the test be done every 6 months. After the age of 4 years, it can be, if the thyroid has remained very, very normal and the child is otherwise growing well, staying active and healthy, then about maybe every 6 months to 1 year. So you don't need to do it that frequently. But before the age of 4 years, I think every 6 months is a good idea to get it done. And one more thing I do want to mention is, try not to do the thyroid blood test when the child is unwell due to something else. Because any sort of illness, like having a cold or fever or taking antibiotics, sometimes can affect the thyroid levels, and then it causes a lot of unnecessary distress and confusion. So in general, it is better to wait for a month after sort of any such illness has passed. A little bit of sniffle, that's okay. But in general, something which is required, antibiotics or something like that, better to wait for a month before doing the thyroid blood test. Even though we give this sort of check every 6 months or check every year at least, if you think that there is some change in the behavior of the child, in the activity of the child, in sort of the skin dryness, just get it done earlier, because the thyroid is one of those things that unless we have a blood test, we cannot diagnose. So if there is any doubt about any change in any aspect of the child's health, it's better to check it. It may not be the thyroid, but it's important to check it. So the things that we check are usually TSH and a T4. We also ask you to check something called thyroid antibodies. So thyroid antibodies are basically antibodies or certain proteins that our body makes against certain parts of our own body due to various reasons. In this particular case, those antibodies are directed against the thyroid gland. And typically you will see reports of antimicrosomal, antithyroglobulin. It does not, we don't need to know what it is. All we need to know is, are these antibodies positive or negative? And the only significance of high level of antibodies is that it may prevent the thyroid gland from working optimally. That is all. So there is no need to get panicky if you see very high levels of the antibody titers. The normal values may be anywhere up to 5 or 20, depending on the type of assay that is used. And sometimes you may see values of 500 or 1000. It doesn't matter. All we need to know ideally is the thyroid antibody positive or is it negative? Even if it is positive, all it indicates is that the child may be more at risk of developing a thyroid problem and nothing else. So there is no need to get alarmed about. Sometimes we have anxious parents saying, oh, my antibody level is 500, what do I do? All it means is that it may prevent the thyroid gland from working normally and nothing else. Otherwise, by itself, it is not of significance. It doesn't cause any other problems apart from this. So a couple of common concerns which I shall address now and I can again discuss in the discussion time. What if my doctor says that the thyroid levels are normal, but my child has symptoms that suggest a thyroid problem? So this is a very common issue because the symptoms related to thyroid dysfunction are very non-specific. When I say non-specific, they may be related to a number of other things apart from the thyroid problem. So for example, tiredness and fatigue can happen because of simple things like lack of iron in the body, lack of calcium and vitamin D. It can also happen because of lack of adequate sleep in older children. So many things can cause tiredness and fatigue. Constipation is a very common problem anyway in trisomy 21. Growth restriction also is a common problem. Difficulty walking is also a common problem. So even though these may be indicative of symptoms of thyroid problem, it may just not be related to thyroid at all. So it is not uncommon for us to see absolutely normal thyroid values in children who have otherwise symptoms related to thyroid. So if your doctor says the thyroid level is normal, do not worry. Just keep checking. Check it again after 6 months, check it again after a year. So do not worry. And the opposite problem. What if the thyroid levels are borderline? And borderline meaning the TSH value is say 5 or 6 or 7, but the doctor says it is normal for age. So I just want to go to the next slide and I'll come. At birth, so this is the value of the TSH on this y-axis, and this shows the range or the change in the TSH with age. At birth, what happens to the TSH between sort of ages of 1 to 10 years, between 10 to 16 years, and over the age of 60 years. So you can see that the TSH values are highest at birth. It can be even up to 10 or 20 immediately after birth. And then it slowly drops so that most adults will have a TSH value of around 4. And then again, after the age of about 60 to 65 years, it starts increasing again slightly. Above this age of 60, it starts going up again back to 5 or 6. So this is the normal sort of rise and fall in the TSH. So children between the ages of between birth to about 10 years can have TSH values anywhere from around 4 to 10. So if you look at the normal range for the TSH, some labs will say less than 4, some labs will say less than 7, some labs will give a very elaborate age-based range for the TSH. I think it's important not to just go by the TSH value. It's also important to look at other parameters. You can't just make a diagnosis or otherwise or decide to treat just based on a TSH value. So when you have a borderline elevation of TSH, so we have to look at other things. We have to look at things like thyroid antibodies. We have to look at things like the actual T4 and T3 level. And most important, we have to consider the sort of the clinical presenting features of the child. So even if you have a borderline TSH value, when I say borderline, I'm talking about a TSH value of 6 or 7, but the antibodies are present in very high levels, or the doctor feels that there is a swelling of the neck, even that so-called borderline or within the normal range for the age TSH may need to be treated. Ideal to keep a TSH value below 4 to 5 in growing children, particularly in the presence of Down syndrome. That is my personal opinion. If you look at the normal ranges for TSH in children, particularly younger children, some labs will say up to 6 or up to 7. So if you see a value of 6 or 7 or even 8 in younger children, quite often it may not be treated. It's important to keep in mind that it may indicate a slightly underactive thyroid gland. Work with your doctor. Consider a trial of thyroid tablets. So if you're concerned that the skin is very dry or hair is very dry or the constipation is worsened, but you just have a borderline thyroid value, discuss with your doctor if it will be worthwhile giving a trial of thyroid replacement for a few months to see if it has a beneficial impact upon the child's health. So you need to discuss with your doctor regarding this. So it's important that we don't treat just a blood test alone. We have to be treating a blood test combined with suggestive clinical features, because we will be monitoring that, both of those things in children on thyroid tablet. Now, sometimes when people hear the word thyroid hormone, when they hear the word hormone, they get, they equate hormone to steroids, and they think that taking a thyroid hormone is not good for the child. That's not true at all. All we are doing in thyroid hormone replacement, so when a child has an underactive thyroid, child or an adult has an underactive thyroid gland, all we are doing is replacing the hormone, the actual T4 hormone in the blood that is deficient. The tablet by itself is safe. The only problem occurs if you are not dosing correctly, if you are either giving too much or too little of the dosage. As long as we are giving the proper dosage of thyroid tablet, and this, how will we know whether we are giving the proper dosage? With regular blood tests. So as long as we are giving a proper dosage of thyroid tablet, we do regular blood tests, keep the thyroid levels in the normal range, then there is no ill effect of thyroid hormone replacement. Once the child is on stable dose of thyroid tablet, we need to do the blood test every 6 months. Again, when children are growing, as their height and weight increases, the dosage requirement may change. So we have to keep checking it. Again, during the pubertal time, in the adolescent age group, it may change even more. Because of other hormonal changes at that time, these children may sometimes require a higher dosage of thyroid tablet during the growing period. So we have to keep checking the blood levels. Initially, when I start thyroid replacement, I ask parents to check it once in 3 months and to keep me informed. Once we have children on a stable dose and there are no other issues, then it is enough if we check it once in 6 months. It is ideal to see an endocrinologist or your pediatrician once in a year or 2 years if you have a thyroid problem, so that the doctor can feel the neck to make sure that there is no swelling of the thyroid gland. Sometimes a doctor, if there is any doubt about a swelling, what we call a goiter, if there is any concern about the swelling of the thyroid gland, we may consider doing an ultrasound of the neck. But it is ideal to see the doctor. The in-between blood test, you can certainly keep in contact. Nowadays, we are doing a lot of online consults. You can keep in touch, emailing the doctor regularly. Now, this is again a very important point. Can I actually prevent thyroid problems? And maybe yes, but to a large extent, I would say no. So I'll start with a no. Why do some children develop thyroid problems? It's mainly because of hereditary and genetic factors. So let's say the mother has, the grandmother has, the mother's sister has, the father has. So each increasing number of family members has a thyroid problem, the higher the chances that a person is going to develop a thyroid problem. So hereditary factors, genetic factors play a very important role in developing thyroid issues. And a number of other things also affect the thyroid function. So for example, it's important to maintain adequate levels of these nutrients in the body. Iron, iodine, tyrosine. Tyrosine is the main, what we call amino acid that is responsible for production of thyroid hormone. Normal levels of other trace elements like zinc, selenium, all the B complex vitamins, vitamin D. So pretty much every sort of vitamin or mineral that we think is important for overall health is also important for the normal functioning of the thyroid gland. I think two of them are particularly important, that is selenium and zinc. And the reason I'm mentioning selenium is that it is believed that one of the reasons why thyroid problems may be increasing worldwide is because of selenium deficiency. And selenium deficiency may also be partly happening because of sort of, what do we call that, overfarming the soil, so that the plants which grow in soil that is depleted of selenium are not able to give us as much selenium as we need. So it may be helpful sometimes. We don't necessarily go around measuring levels of each one of these trace minerals and elements. We just look at generally things like a hemoglobin and a calcium level. We just do some basic tests. We don't go into great detail about measuring each one of these mineral levels. But I think it is not a bad idea to take a general multivitamin supplement, whatever sort it is, you can discuss with your doctor. A general supplement to ensure that your body can consume whatever vitamins it may be deficient in. Some of the vitamins we have to be careful that we are avoiding overdosing. Those are what are called the fat soluble vitamins, vitamin A and vitamin D. We should not be consuming, and vitamin E. We should not be consuming in large amounts. But what we call the B complex sort of vitamins, most of these our body will adjust. It'll absorb it from the supplement if it needs it. If it doesn't need it, it will not absorb. So some sort of a gentle supplement with particular reference to zinc and selenium. And also, I will just mention it here. Zinc and selenium, if you want to take it in natural sort of food, zinc is particularly found in things like eggs, nuts, things like almonds and peanuts and all that. So a good intake of a basic, good, healthy, balanced diet would ensure that you get enough of these vitamins and minerals. Selenium particularly is found in the covering of nuts. So for example, if you're going to eat like almonds or peanuts or something, maybe leave the skin on, maybe. So these are some of the sort of natural sources, and I'll be happy if anybody can share other sources that they may know of for good intake of zinc and selenium. So an important, good, balanced diet may be necessary to ensure that a normal functioning of the thyroid is maintained, and avoiding weight gain. So I just go back to that slide. The common misconception is you gain weight because of thyroid. The reverse is I think more important, particularly in children. If they gain weight very rapidly because of lack of exercise and a poor diet, that can actually affect the TSH value. So it is important to avoid rapid weight gain. So gaining, say, more than about 5 to 6 kilos, particularly a lot of weight gain around the tummy. Now, growing children are going to gain weight because they're building up muscle. Every single organ system is growing. But gaining fat in the body very rapidly may affect thyroid function. So maintaining a good, active, healthy lifestyle, exercising regularly, and consideration of some supplements, a basic, good, healthy, balanced diet. I think all of these things will go a long way in making sure that the thyroid is working normally. So to summarize, this is my last slide. I think it's very important that all children reach their full potential in terms of their growth and development. And they should not suffer because of potentially treatable, easily treatable, diagnosed medical conditions like the thyroid. And the thyroid test is now available even in small villages. Most labs do a TSH. So TSH is easily available. So TSH should be done whenever possible. Like I mentioned, up to the age of 4 years, every 6 months. After that, at least yearly once. And if there is any concern that, yes, either you have borderline thyroid or your child has a thyroid problem, please get in touch with an endocrinologist to discuss it in more detail. So regular screening and proper treatment will ensure this. I'm going to stop there. That was my last slide. And I thank you for your attention. And I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah. Is Dr. Pradeep here?
Dr. Pradeep has accidentally left the thing and can't come back because we already have 100 people.
Okay.
So that's no problem at all. We'll look at the chat and see.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just go to the chat box.
Ma'am, maybe we could ask the gentleman who has sent the question to ask you the question directly, so it will be easier for you also.
Sure, sure. I have a question here from Kirtika. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Shall I go ahead and read it off?
Yes, you go ahead.
Yeah. So if the child is apparently less, or let's say 0.1% hypertonic at 3 months from birth, are there chances to become more hypertonic later, assuming there is no issue with thyroid level? And I think the brief answer is yes. Rekha, maybe you can answer that.
Pardon?
No. So the question is, I think the question is, can children develop hypotonia even in the presence of a normal thyroid level?
Yes. We see children with hypertonia right through their lives. See, it is nothing. I mean, of course, it is bordered on the fact that you take your medication, and we do a lot of intensive early intervention and keep them on a program right through their life. But the muscles are going to remain as, weak till we keep on strengthening them. Like you said, I think it's very, very crucial that we take this very seriously, because hypertonia is something that doesn't get rectified overnight. And am I right, Jayashree?
Absolutely. And just to again reiterate that thyroid levels can be absolutely normal, and there can be sort of progressive hypotonia. I think also commonly now calcium and vitamin D is also checked, because that can not so much hypotonia as it can contribute to muscle weakness.
Right.
So that should also be checked and treated. There was a question here about, one second, about the salt, and I would like to address that. This is from Dr. Priya Jain. Thank you, Dr. Priya. Which salt should we use? Is this Senda Namak? What is Senda Namak?
Ma'am, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Ma'am, is it the normal Sendha Namak that we use it for fasting, or the normal NaCl salt, or the black salt? Which one we should use for our kids? Because I heard a lot that we should not use that normal Tata salt or something for daily routine consumption.
Okay, so I mean, there's sort of a few things about this, and I'm glad you brought it up, Priya. So I think it is important to use iodized salt, whether it's a Tata iodized salt or whatever, at least in some quantity every day, particularly if you are a vegetarian. Most of the iodine in our diet probably comes from seafood. And if you're a pure vegetarian, not having seafood at all, I think it is important to include a little bit of iodinated salt in the diet. Now, if you take something like rock salt or Himalayan salt, it may not have enough iodine in it, which may not show up immediately, but definitely can impact, on your health over a period of time. So what I tell people is make sure you're having at least about half a teaspoon of regular white salt every day. When I say regular white salt, I'm talking about the processed salt. I know that there are sort of problems with, the adding the other chemicals, the anti-caking agents and things like that, but ensure that you take at least half a teaspoon of it. And then the rest of it you can use. The other important thing to keep in mind is that iodine is something that is extremely easily, decomposed. So a very simple tip is that add the salt near the end of the cooking. So don't add the salt to the vegetables or to whatever it is at the start of the cooking, because it gets decomposed. So you may not get the benefit of the iodine in that way. So at the very end, when you're just going to sort of put the cover and turn off the gas, at that time you can just add the salt at the very end. But make sure that you're adding at least about half a teaspoon of salt per person per day overall in the cooking.
Okay. Ma'am, may I ask one more question?
Please.
Ma'am, my son, he is just turned 7 this month only, and he's under thyroid medication, that is 25 mg per day and 50 mg on Saturday and Sunday. And ma'am, his thyroid levels are fine for a long time. For a long time, he is on the same medication. So can we try to stop the medicine and check for some time?
How old is your child?
He's just turned 7 years.
7 years. Okay. So what I do in that situation is I check the thyroid antibodies. I also check an ultrasound neck, and I consider the family history. So if the ultrasound neck is absolutely normal and thyroid antibodies are negative, what I would first do is reduce the dosage. I would not stop it. I'd probably go from say 25 to maybe 25 every day. And if that's also normal, then stop and see if the other parameters are normal. If antibodies are positive, if the ultrasound neck is showing some mild changes suggestive of thyroiditis, it is just better to continue with the tablet.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome. Welcome. The next question is about So the next question is, please explain cretinism in current times. So cretinism is something that happens when either children are born with an underactive thyroid gland and they've not been exposed to thyroid hormone within the mother's womb. So in this day, it is very, very rare. It's very, very rare. Probably only sort of, at least in most developed countries, it's almost unheard of. And a lot of developing countries also, it's become very rare because, like I said, the awareness of thyroid and universal iodization of salt, which the WHO took up. So this is very rare. So cretinism should not be occurring really in this day and age. I think among all my patients, I have one child with cretins. Sadly, what happened was the child was diagnosed appropriately, was taking thyroid tablet till the age of 2 years. Then the father stopped the thyroid tablet and he came back to attention only at the age of 7 or 8 years. So that crucial period between 0 to 4 years, from birth to 4 years, when the brain development is so dependent upon thyroid, at that time, if we miss the boat and do not treat the children properly with thyroid tablet, later on, there is no point in restarting thyroid tablet. The changes that occur because of thyroid deficiency at that age is irreversible. So birth to 4 years, it's very, very important. And that's why I again say check it every 6 months. But in general, cretinism is not at all a major issue.
Ma'am, I'll ask you the questions, ma'am, so it's easier for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ma'am, the next question is from Mr. Hitesh Shah. He says, hypothyroid, what exercise should be done?
Sorry, hypo or hypo?
Thyroid, hypo, ma'am, P-O.
There is no specific exercise as such which has been shown to improve the activity of the thyroid gland. I know that there are certain yoga postures that are recommended to improve the blood flow to the thyroid gland in the thinking that it may help to improve the functioning of the thyroid gland. And scientifically, studies have not shown that it helps. However, I think yoga is a very, very beneficial exercise overall for the body. So certainly do it. Otherwise, a regular exercise is what we recommend. Regular exercise like walking and some amount of flexibility and muscle training exercises, physiotherapy like Dr. Rekha was mentioning for the strength of the muscles. But there is no specific exercise for thyroid.
My daughter is on thyroid supplement since birth. This is Ms. Shantini. Also, their thyroid antibodies are very high. Can I do anything about the antibodies?
Honestly, stop worrying about it. Which is why I put up that slide about the thyroid antibodies. Antibody levels will fluctuate. Mostly it is made by, in our body because of hereditary factors, genetic factors. A good healthy diet, which is anti-inflammatory. When I say anti-inflammatory, this is the type of diet we recommend to people with diabetes. So we say no sugar, low carb, high fiber, good amount of good fat, avoid, too much of processed foods. So a basic good healthy diet, which we would recommend anyway, may help in bringing down the antibody titer levels from say 500 to 100. Whether it will become completely negative, no. When the levels are very high, the titer may vary a little bit, 100, 500, 700, it does not matter. And in fact, I do not recommend repeating the antibodies again and again. Just do it once to know if it is positive or negative, then forget about it. You do not need to repeat it again and again. It is of no relevance.
The next question is from Shweta. Again, it is about antibodies. Weight loss can be a symptom in hypothyroid. If a child has hypothyroid, should we check thyroid antibodies?
More than thyroid antibodies, what you need to check is the TSH and T4 and T3. Thyroid antibodies per se will not affect any other problem apart from thyroid functioning. So thyroid antibodies by itself cannot cause weight loss or weight gain or any issue or hair fall. It will only cause it to happen if the thyroid is not working normally.
This is from Ruch. Yeah, ma'am.
Sorry, no, I can hear someone talking.
Ma'am, that's behind me. So sorry, I'll try and mute myself.
Excuse me, ma'am. Please take my question. Hello, ma'am. Nisha. Hello, ma'am. I'm Nisha Sharma. Please take my question.
Sure, we have enough time. Don't worry. I think I have another hour left. I'm happy to stay here and answer. Don't worry.
Can I start with my question, ma'am, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, my child is 2 years, 2 months old. And since birth, he's suffering from hypothyroidism. His one side gland is underdeveloped according to screening.
Yes.
And we are giving, earlier we were giving him 25 mg MCG thyroid tablet daily.
Yes.
But since from this February, dose has been changed and doctor has advised us to give him 37.5.
Yes.
And daily I am giving him vitamin D, 600 IU, and plus, as you were saying that we should avoid giving them vitamin E. But I'm giving him almonds also in the morning, 3-4 almonds.
Good. Good.
So
Fine.
I'm doing it. Is it okay or something wrong is going on? Because he is only 2.2 and dose is 37.5.
It doesn't matter. Children in general require a relatively higher dosage per kg. And as they grow, the dosage requirement will keep going up. So that's quite
Yes.
normal. And your doctor is
And-
doing absolutely the right thing, checking regularly and adjusting the dosage. That's exactly what needs to be done.
Okay, and one more thing, vitamin D I'm giving him, is it okay?
Yes, it's absolutely fine. I mean,
Okay, ma'am.
600 IU per day is a very, very safe dose that you can give, certainly.
Okay. Anything you want to advise, because it's only 2.2, any precautionary measures?
Nothing, just make sure that the thyroid blood test is done regularly and the TSH is kept within the normal range.
Okay, after every 6 months, you told earlier.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you a lot, ma'am.
The next question is from Ruchika Bhargava. She wants to know, should the blood test of thyroid be done after taking medication or before the medication?
Yeah. So as a general rule, it's better to just remember to do it before you take the tablet on that day. There are some differences, as in the TSH value does not get affected too much by taking the tablet or not taking the tablet, but the T4 levels get affected both by the tablet and by food. The TSH value also has some change, whether it's morning or evening. So because of all of these sort of variables that may affect thyroid levels, as a general rule, I advise that you do it in the morning on an empty stomach before you take the thyroid tablet.
Yeah, okay. The next question, ma'am, is from Miss Lavina Jain. Microsomal TPO antibody says negative 0.27 IU per ml, but thyroglobulin antibody says positive 5.19 IU per ml. All other markers are within normal range. Should this ring a bell? My son is now 3 years old.
Ring a bell in the sense that, yes, your child may be more at risk of developing a thyroid problem, but anyway, it is not going to change. Like I said, every 6 months, check the TSH till the age of 4 years. Having once done the antibody, there is no need to repeat the antibodies. So you know that one antibody is just borderline high, the other antibody is negative. It gives us the same information. We already know that the child is at higher chance of developing a thyroid issue. I don't routinely check antibodies. In fact, the only place where I find antibodies beneficial is like the other doctor was asking earlier, can I stop thyroid tablet? To answer that question, I look at antibodies. Decision to treat or not treat usually does not depend on the antibody level. But it's always, I mean, there are lots of these intricacies. I would say it's best to talk with the endocrinologist or your pediatrician. But this type of antibody thing, nothing to worry. As long as the TSH is within the normal range, no need to worry about the antibody level.
Great. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, Dr. Pradeep has joined us again. I think he can take over now.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you. Dr. Pradeep, so you can take over. Hello? Pradeep,
Hello.
sir? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
till which question we have finished?
So you have to start from that 1.5-year baby. TSH is 4.33, T4 is 1.06, and T3 is
Yes,
5. That's the one.
Ma'am, 1.5 years old baby, TSH 4.33, T4 1.06, T3 5.16.
Yeah.
So
So
that is the value they've given.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I would not consider treatment. This is very, very normal for a 1.5-year-old child. And also, I just want to point out that T3 values are very much subject to lab error. So if at all, if you remember in the test that I did, I always say do a TSH and a free T4 if at all. So a TSH and a free or a total T4, whatever it is, those are the tests you need to do. T3, particularly in younger children, is prone to a lot of lab error. So do not worry if the value comes back as saying slightly high or slightly low, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything important. So this type of thyroid values, I would say, is normal. Just repeat it again after 6 months.
Again, another question related to the TSH levels, ma'am. 9.46. We don't know the age of the baby. What will be the medication? Is the question. 9.46.
Yeah. So I think I don't want to get into sort of answering individual thyroid levels in detail right now.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we'll do it as a. I think Dr. Rekha is arranging for a medical camp on on the 15th. So it's better because each one of these are individualized decisions. I cannot make like a one-off prediction like this. So please don't put up your actual thyroid levels. I'm not going to be taking individual case scenarios. I'll be happy to participate in the camp and answer.
Awesome. General questions like, does food has something to do with thyroid function? I hope you would have answered this, ma'am. I mean, some people believe eating cabbage or cauliflower is not good. So that
Yes. That's very important. Thanks, Pradeep, for bringing it up. I forgot about it. So you don't need to make any changes in the diet as far as thyroid is concerned, apart from what I said earlier, a basic, good, healthy, non-inflammatory diet, if you will. Cabbage and cauliflower, particularly when it is cooked, does not interfere with thyroid function in any way. So even if your child has been diagnosed with a thyroid problem, you do not need to subject the child to not having cabbage and cauliflower for the rest of his or her life. Cabbage and cauliflower causes problems if you eat large amounts raw. What do I mean by large amounts? You're only having cabbage and cauliflower 3 times a day in the raw state without cooking. Potentially, it may affect the thyroid problem if you do this over many, many years. Having cabbage and cauliflower as part of an overall balanced diet after it is cooked, absolutely no issues. And you don't need to avoid anything if you have a thyroid problem.
One of the child who's 12 years old with autoimmune hypothyroidism, can she develop alopecia is the question.
If the thyroid levels are normal, no. If the child has, there is a different type of a thyroid problem called polyglandular syndrome. I'm just giving the medical name. Potentially, yes, there is an issue and they can develop alopecia, but most often the hypothyroidism that occurs in this genetic condition, it is not associated with alopecia.
Another question related, there are few questions related to vitamin D, ma'am. So is it compulsory to give vitamin D and multivitamin syrup till 2 years old? How long should we continue vitamin D? This is regarding the regular supplementation, what pediatricians advise.
Why don't you answer that, Pradeep?
Yes, so till 1 year, vitamin D is what we recommend. Multivitamins is just optional. So it is a recommendation that you can give daily required dose, that is 400 international units per day for 1 year. That is the advice we give as a pediatrician. Right, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely. I think it is important, particularly in this day and age when we are not going out. And even when we go out, the children are all swaddled. So if we are not getting enough sun exposure, I think and then like Dr. Pradeep said, giving 400 or 600 IU per day is a very, very safe level of vitamin D. There won't be any harm, and definitely it helps. Even children who are taking vitamin D, sometimes we see that the vitamin D is deficient. So if there is a delay in walking and all that, it is calcium and vitamin D is something that needs to be checked, and sometimes we have to give higher doses to help with the muscle and muscle strength.
Yes, ma'am. The next question is, if a child is started on thyroid tablets, will it be for lifetime?
Most often, yes, it is for a lifetime. Even though we know that the things that are causing the thyroid to become underactive, which is the hereditary and the genetic factor, and maybe age, there is nothing we can do about it. So sometimes thyroid problems can go back to working thyroid, that to borderline thyroid function test. So sometimes what happens is what I was talking about earlier. A thyroid is diagnosed based on borderline levels, and the child or adult is put on thyroid tablet. And then after some time, they decide I've had enough of taking the tablet. They stop the tablet and the level is normal. They think that the thyroid problem has been cured. but maybe they didn't require to be on the tablet in the first place, which is why I was saying when you have borderline levels, think about why we are treating that borderline thyroid value. Are we treating it for a particular reason? If it was picked up as part of a regular screening test and the child is otherwise well and no symptoms, we can just monitor the thyroid values. If definitely we are convinced that the thyroid gland is underactive and we start thyroid replacement, then usually it has to continue for life. We cannot stop it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, and there are few personal questions related to values that can be dealt during the camp. Sleep problems and thyroid abnormalities, ma'am. So sleep issues.
Yes, yes. So one of the things I had mentioned was particularly very sort of severe thyroid dysfunction when the thyroid gland is very underactive. Very definitely it causes excessive sleep. You find it very difficult to, wake the child up. Increased sleep is needed, particularly in the ages of like puberty and adolescent. Sleep is the time that children grow actually. Sleep is the time that growth hormone is secreted, and sleeping is the time that children actually physically grow. They don't actually physically grow in the daytime. So children between the ages of say 12 or 13 and 18 or 19 are not being lazy. They just need to sleep more. They may even need to sleep 12 to 14 hours a day. That is a normal physiology. But a child who has adequate sleep and you're still finding it very difficult to wake the child up, particularly relatively rapid weight gain associated with snoring, then we have to start thinking about thyroid problems. But in general, just for a child that is sleeping a lot, if the child is otherwise active during the day, I wouldn't worry about a thyroid issue. Maybe that child does need that sleep.
So the children with snoring, will the hypothyroidism can lead to
Yes.
severe symptoms like sleep apnea?
Yes, very definitely. In fact, I think the recommendation for snoring and sleep apnea is first treat the thyroid. That itself will cause an improvement in snoring and sleep apnea symptoms.
Yes, ma'am. There are a few other questions related to routine vitamin D supplementation for all children with all ages. Is that recommended, or any vitamin supplementations are needed for children with Down syndrome other than the thyroid supplementations without checking? That is routine supplements. Is that anything recommended?
So I don't know about whether specifically in Down syndrome it is recommended. What is recommended in general for children?
We don't recommend anything, ma'am, unless we see
after the age of. So sorry, after the age of 1 or 2 years, nothing is recommended, is it?
Nothing. Usually diet only. Unless we see some vitamin deficiency features, we won't recommend anything. And vitamin D also.
So the way also, yeah.
Yes,
so no, I was just going to, sorry to interrupt. I was just also going to say that I don't think it hurts also to give a general multivitamin syrup and minimal dose of vitamin D every day. So it's sort of each parent's choice. And a lot of doctors will write 3 months of some multivitamin syrup if there is some hair fall, on and off, on and off. You go with a cough and cold, you'll get some 10 days of multivitamins anyway. Yeah. So I think ultimately we'll end up taking it, but there's nothing wrong. There is no harm provided you're taking, the B complex vitamins, that type of vitamin syrup. There's nothing wrong. It won't harm. Whether it's needed, yeah, not necessarily.
Pradeep, can I just come in 1 minute?
Please,
Jayashree, there's a very important question that we get from every person who comes to us. Their child will be sometimes very lethargic, not very cooperative, sleeping longer hours, and dull and listless. And when they do the thyroid test, they took it back to the pediatrician or the endocrinologist, and it was recorded that they had nothing to do with the thyroid. So, when we were doing our studies, we sometimes think that giving the thyroid medication, by just looking at the child and not looking at the lab tests, can we tell them that we need for them to support the child with the medication? Because I find that, a young child cannot be in a mood disorder state, which I might see in an older person. But with little children, sometimes we are finding that the testing can cause some confusion.
I would not recommend starting thyroid tablet without a definitive, even if the levels are borderline. I think sometimes the confusion that happens is because the TSH values may be what is considered normal for the age, which is why I put up in my final slide that we should consider keeping the TSH value below 4, which is what we consider as normal for adults. And in pregnancy, for the pregnant mothers, we have even lower TSH values, but most pediatricians would consider a TSH of 6 or 7 to be a normal TSH. That's why I said it's important to look at the clinical features. So if there is a borderline thyroid, I would not do it in the absence of, first of all, a blood test, just looking at the child and deciding. I would not personally. Depending on the TSH and the presence of thyroid antibodies, and I think it's also important to monitor the trend in the TSH. So whether the TSH is sort of going up, let's say, is it going from 3 to 4 to 5, I think you have a stronger case to start thyroid replacement. So you can always repeat the thyroid blood test in about 4 to 6 weeks. Because there is a lot of variation in thyroid tablet. The other way to also look at this question is there any harm in giving a low dose of thyroid tablet? Thyroid tablet is a medication, and I think we should be sort of cognizant of the fact that potentially giving an unnecessary medicine will have its own effect on the body. So I would not recommend starting thyroid tablets unless I'm convinced that some of the symptoms may be related to an underactive thyroid gland. In that case, even if the levels are sort of borderline, if there are other supporting features, then I would say consider a trial of thyroid replacement to see if symptoms improve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have another question. How important it is at this time to give Zincovit?
Yeah, very, very important. I'm glad you brought it up. At least for adults, we are recommending definitely taking a multivitamin with zinc in it. At least about most of the supplements contain anywhere from 25 to 40 mg. The 3 that are recommended are zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. So particularly for all of our adults, we are recommending that they're taking at least the zinc and the vitamin D. Vitamin C is found in large amounts in fresh fruits and vegetables. So if you're taking at least 1 fresh fruit a day, I think you're going to get your vitamin C quota. But the vitamin C dosage recommendation currently is 500 mg for adults. Now, I do not know for children, what is the recommended dose? What is it, Dr. Pradeep? Same as it, or?
Maybe even I have to see, ma'am. But
Okay.
usually with the diet itself, we can manage most of the vitamins because children tend to take these fruits, all citrus type of fruits. They are more fond of. So most of the time, vitamin C, they have adequate vitamin C also. The regular multivitamin syrup dose itself is enough, like 5 ml once a day. That will manage all sort of vitamin recommendations.
I have another very important question. How does B12 impact a person with the mood?
Yeah, so the B12 is very, very important for the normal sort of 2 things. One is the normal covering of the nerves and for maintaining this nerve covering, what we call the myelin sheath. And it's also important for other metabolic processes, again, within every cell. When there is vitamin B12 deficiency, it probably is anyway, so vitamin B12 deficiency can cause things like irritability. It can cause sort of change in personality, mood changes, apart from the usual things, which is like the pricking of your feet and burning of the feet is a very common problem. It may be a common problem in our country because it is thought traditionally that vitamin B12 is found mainly in foods of animal origin. However, there is more recent sort of research coming out saying that even plants have vitamin B12 in them for various metabolic processes. So that may not necessarily be true. Most of the vitamin B12 in our body is made in our gut. It's made in the colon, in the lower part of our gut. And if you have a good, what can we say? If you have a good, what we call a microbiome, good amount of good bacteria growing there, able to make vitamin B12, most of us may not suffer from vitamin B12 deficiency, but it is something important to keep in mind and consider supplementing or replacing if there is a doubt, because it can cause a lot of symptoms which may be underdiagnosed and and it can be easily treated with the vitamin B12 supplementation.
Another very important question. If my child is suffering from mood swings, a slightly older person, or a person even at pubertal age, we are finding mood swings. I want to know, how do I differentiate whether it is a thyroid issue or it is to do with a mental illness? So do I need to get to a psychiatrist, a clinical psychologist? All of this is my concern when I see 13, 14-year-olds hallucinating or bouncing from good mood to bad mood. And when we say thyroid levels, is it more than that, or is there need to go and get aggressive with the psychiatrist?
I would start with a basic blood test. So certainly thyroid, and since you mentioned vitamin B12, complete blood count, calcium, vitamin D, so a basic set of blood tests, 100%. In fact, I remember a 17-year-old boy who was actually admitted to a drug rehab center because he suddenly presented with acute, change in his behavior, hallucinations, and they were convinced that he was, taking drugs somewhere. And it turned out that all of his symptoms were related to hyperthyroidism. And once we treated, he's back to normal. He's going to engineering college. He's doing extraordinarily well. So thyroid should be one of the things that we check. So I would start with those basic things. However, it does not negate the, if the situation is such that you're not able to manage while we are waiting for all of these tests to come in and all that, you may still need to talk with a psychiatrist or psychologist for temporary control of symptoms while we try and treat the medical problems if there are any. So I would say both are necessary. Both are necessary. Both may be necessary sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, Pradeep, I hand it back to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello. Hello. Can I come in for a minute, please?
Please.
Yeah,
Hello?
please, Mr. Suman, please come in.
Yes, please. Go ahead, sir,
Yeah.
with your question. Yes.
You see, my daughter is 36 years, and 36 years back, we did not know about the thyroid problem also. When she was born, she was seen by one Dr. Merchant in Bombay. In fact, he suggested the thyroid 1/8 of a 100 mg MCG tablet. We started with that, and after 7-8 years, we stopped it. And now she is 36 years. She is having those mood swings and memory issues. And she has now she is regularly under the care of an endocrinologist at Hubli. But he is also suggesting sleep, test and all that, test for sleep apnea. And my concern is how it's going to pan out in the coming years, as far as her health is concerned, or endocrinology is concerned. How it's going to pan out, as
So
she is
apart
already
from, like I mentioned
36
earlier,
years.
apart from thyroid, the things that happen in older people with Downs are more the metabolic things like sugar, diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure, fatty liver. All these are common things anyway, even in the absence. It just occurs because of excess body fat. So these would be my concerns. And I think maintaining, again, I come back to maintaining a good healthy diet and lifestyle is what is important. But apart from thyroid, there are no other specific endocrine issues I would be concerned about.
This thing is all sugar level and
Other sugar levels, everything is okay that way.
cholesterol and
She is regularly being consulted, but he is suggesting sleep apnea studies. But should we go for that? And that's what you also suggested. There may be sleep apnea problem.
Yeah, particularly if the weight is an issue, that may be one of the things that's causing problems, particularly with excessive irritability and tiredness. So it may be worthwhile.
It may be worthwhile.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Jayashree, there's this particular person from Ladakh.
Yeah.
And I know that she is struggling very hard to find the right people to manage her little boy. He's about 9 months old, and he's on thyroid medication. So she just wants to know that because it is very, very cold over there, is there anything specific she has to do with the diet? Because he's already on thyroid supplement. He's taking, and they have done the test 7 times. The last 2 tests are, they showed quite they have shown about they're giving him 25 mcg Monday to Friday, 37.5 mcg Saturday and Sunday. His growth is normal. They're very happy. His bowel movements are also okay. Is there anything else they have to do?
Nothing. Just like I said, once you have the child on a stable dose, it's enough to check the levels about once in, say, 4 to 6 months, if the child is otherwise growing well. Specifically, we don't need to change anything with respect to the cold. In some people, there is some change in the thyroid tablet dosage between sort of summer and winter. But as long as you're checking it fairly regularly, that sort of change in the thyroid dosage can be covered. We can adjust the dosage and keep the thyroid level in the normal range. So no, nothing specific either in terms of diet or something. It's managed the same way only.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ma'am,
Dr. Pradeep.
I have to ask a question, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Sir, I have a son 35 years old.
Okay.
B12 and vitamin D uska low chal raha hai kafi. In Feb it was 46. Now again tested, now it is 98. And vitamin D was 8.49 in Feb. Now it is 67.6.
Can we please reserve all these questions related to personal levels and all to the further meetings? Because it will be preferable, because we need to put in so much of effort and time to read all these details and ma'am to give an opinion. It will be better if we have a one-to-one interaction during campus.
Just 1 second, sir. He is increasing his weight.
Okay.
Suddenly he is in weight. I am worried about that.
So maybe
you need to make sure that the diet is, cut the sugar and reduce the carbohydrate intake, increase the fiber, exercise. Weight gain is an issue for older people.
Okay.
So the diet has to be healthy and exercise has to be encouraged. Exercise has to be encouraged. From what I see with children in their, I keep calling them children, but people in their 20s and early 30s, is they have to be really prodded and pulled, and best is to take them along when you go for a walk. You have to go do it. You have to take them with you when you go for a walk. We have to sort of do
Now
the
in
thing.
these 2-3 months he has gained weight. Now he's not going for walk.
That is why. Probably that is why. Once he starts exercising, it will come back now.
Okay.
And if just a quick word about the vitamin D, if you're still giving vitamin D, stop it, because these levels are nearing high levels. So you can stop it. Yeah.
Yes.
67 I can stop.
Yes, you can stop.
And vitamin B12 is 98.
That is low. That you have to discuss with your doctor about replacing.
Okay.
Dr. Pradeep,
Yes,
there's a
ma'am.
lady called, her daughter called Ashrita.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
she, because of this age, I'm just asking you to bring this in, because this is a borderline case between being depressed and thyroid levels. So I think we need to give her a chance.
Sure, ma'am.
Is it
please.
okay? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. No problem.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Rekha ji. Yeah, good evening, Dr. Jayashree.
Good evening.
Yeah, Ashrita's always TSH levels. I had checked from our medical reports. I was doing that only from 2016. It is keeping on variations. Like sometimes it is 7.5, sometimes it is more. And like this May, it was 7.27, and she was being given 75 mg of L-troxin. But now, day before yesterday, I checked it. It is 1.37. And recently, since 7-8 months, she's become very 2-3 months actually. She's become very lethargic, not interested. It's like sometimes when I call and all, she's like not responding, less appetite, less interest, no reaction. So whether it is because of the medicine, more of medicine, or should I reduce the
See, the dosage that you're telling me, have you also done a T4 and T3, or is it only the TSH?
T4, T3. I think, see, it is 3.9
Yeah.
3 is 3.9, FT4 is 15.
15. Okay, so that level sounds like
1.37. This is on day before yesterday I did it.
yeah.
Huh.
So
And-
this sounds like it's within the normal range only.
Oh. Yeah.
So the TSH value also looks like it's fairly normal. And the symptoms you're describing, it won't be because of the thyroid tablet per se.
Okay.
And the dosage also seems correct. The 75 micrograms seems correct. So I do not think the symptoms are related to the thyroid.
So I should continue 75.
Yes. Yes.
1.37 also. Okay. Because it was 7.27 and now it is 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Thank you.
Ma'am, a similar question, please.
Thanks.
The fluctuation in the TSH level is very high. My daughter's 0.03.
That usually means that the dosage is very high. And
No,
that the
actually,
dosage,
it was a 4.3.9, 0.89, and dosage is 100/75 mcg alternate date as per endocrinologist. I consulted a year back.
yeah.
Now
So,
I got it tested now recently, 2 days back only. It is coming 0.03.
so that
TSH
means
level.
the dosage will need to be reduced further.
Uh-huh.
So just please talk with your doctor and see what is the dosage. So whoever has been taking care, because they'll have a better idea how much to reduce it to.
Yeah. Now they say that you reduce it to 75 now, from 175 to 75 daily.
Yeah. So yes, do that. But I think what is also more important is to repeat the thyroid blood test in about 3 months.
3 months. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. It's nothing to worry much worried
No.
because she's
Nothing
only-
will happen. Nothing will happen
16
in
for
the.
the last 16 years she's taking medicine for that. Started with 150 mcg, reducing every 6 months or so like that.
Yeah.
Really to that.
Not at all. That's why
Yeshwari,
I.
I have another very important question.
Thank you. Thank you.
People who have kept their children on medication for depression, mood disorders, and have suddenly stopped it because they think the child is perfect now. It comes back with such a bang. I want to tell them that the mood disorders are something that you have to keep on checking. And I want to know how this is so closely related with the thyroid issues. Because I'm really worried about the mood swings of persons from 16 years to 50 years. And they are hallucinating, and the medicines for every little thing is different. What is happening is the minute the parent feels the child is coming back, they are withdrawing the medicines. So I really don't know how to explain to them that you don't suddenly withdraw any medication. So even whether it is a thyroid medication, it has to be checked, analyzed, and sometimes I'm not able to get the right endocrinologist because the pediatric level has gone. You're no longer below 16. So you don't go to the pediatrician. We don't have general physicians in India. So who do we go to?
Well, I'll be happy to anyway take care of it online, which is what I've been doing. So
to the entire group that is here today, Dr. Jayashree has offered her services. So please take her email address and promptly, because otherwise I get all these values and I am confused about values, okay? I'm not an endocrinologist and I'm not a pediatrician. I can help them to tell them that's all.
No. I'm very happy to sort of, answer and guide and all that. It just helps us so that you know what things to send us. I'll tell you the thing. It helps us to know things like what is the age of the person, if they are on thyroid tablet, how long they've been on thyroid tablet, what has been the dosage over the years. So if you make like a little tabular column with the date and the thyroid values and the dosage at that point in time, that just helps us know over a period of time, and the weight over time, because the previous gentleman was saying the TSH is suddenly dropped.
Right.
The other thing everybody should know is that anytime you gain weight, your thyroid level, your TSH value will increase and you will require a higher thyroid dosage. Anytime you lose weight, the thyroid requirement will go down. So it is very intimately linked. So we make a decision on the actual dosage or whether to change or not, also depending on factors like weight, what was the previous dosage, what was the previous response to medication. So for some people, I may need to even change it by as little as 12.5 or half of 12.5. For some people, I may need to change it by 50. So this sort of intricacy sometimes takes us time to develop. I may not know it at the first visit. So it is not like 2 + 2 is equal to 4. 2 + 2 can be 3, 4, 5, and even 10 in thyroid. I'm saying it is sometimes an art. So I cannot just give a thing like that. And so I'm happy to answer questions if you provide us with more details, proper details.
Dr. Pradeep, it is now your job to create that graph for us.
Oh, sure. You can send the values, ma'am. We can do it. Definitely.
No, but you do exactly what Dr. Jayashree said. Create that profile so that we get the base, the idea of the age of the child, the medication, how many years they've been on it, what is the actual reason for them to be wanting to go. We can go through it ourselves and then pass it on to Dr. Jayashree because she's really got a lot of other cases. So we can try and help her by taking it down from one level to the next.
Like a small questionnaire types, like small proforma type we can prepare.
Absolutely.
Another interesting question is one 6-year-old girl who was euthyroid. 2 years back, they've checked the thyroid and it was normal. She's demanding more salt, it seems, in food. Demanding more salt. Is there anything?
That's very interesting. Not really. I mean, I can't think of why it should be related to thyroid, but if it's been 2 years since the thyroid test, anyway, do it.
They have to do it.
Salt craving, usually in adults, we see it when the blood pressure is low, or sometimes salt craving happens because of you get strange cravings. When I say strange, I mean like or not ordinary cravings with iron deficiency. So I would definitely check thyroid and a CBC level in this child, a complete blood count.
Complete blood count for anemia and a thyroid profile.
Thyroid
that has
profile.
to be done for that child.
Yes.
Any relationship with mushroom and hypothyroidism is a question they've asked, ma'am.
Not as far as I know. Not as far as I know. No.
Yes, there are.
Good evening, ma'am. Can I ask some question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. My son is 6 years old now. Ma'am, when he was born, at that time he was detected with thyroid, and the doctor advised us to give the dosage 12.5 mg. But ma'am, when he became 6 months old, after that doctor told us that you should stop the medication because uska range sab normal aa gaya tha. And ma'am, till now abhi bhi uska range normal hai. But ma'am, there are people who are telling कि medication एक बार शुरू होने के बाद हमें बंद नहीं करना चाहिए because in the Down syndrome it is necessary for the growth. So ma'am, this is one question, and another is कि ma'am, he having a very low vitamin D3 level. He have only 20.3 that is. और अभी उसको मैम मैं every week कैल्शियम सेशे दे रही हूँ, विटामिन D3 सेशे दे रही हूँ, साथ में कैल्शियम every day twice a day दे रही हूँ. तो मैम इसके अलावा भी मुझे कुछ देना है because उसका विटामिन D3 हमेशा लो ही रहता है. And doctor told us कि he having a osteopenia, bones weak है उसका, थोड़ा अभी उसका एक्सरे कराया था. वैसे walking वगैरह everything is okay. He is running, walk, but मैम उसको अभी osteopenia भी बताया है, तो ये मेरा थोड़ा issue हो गया है ये.
How old is the child?
Now he is 6 years old.
6 years old, okay. Yes. So to answer your first question, soon after birth, up to 4 to 7 days after birth, the TSH value can be slightly high. It can be 12 or 13. That is why at birth, unless the TSH is about 20, we don't diagnose hypothyroidism. So it may have been at birth, the thyroid level was only borderline high. So that's why doctor decided to give a minimal dose of thyroid tablet. As long as currently the thyroid level is very normal without thyroid tablet, don't worry about it. That means the thyroid gland is working normally.
Okay, ma'am.
And regarding the bones, I would be a little bit careful. Keep a track of both the vitamin D and the calcium level. Okay. So calcium should not go very high because you're giving quite a high dosage of vitamin D, which is weekly once for a 6-year-old child. That is a good dose. Okay. I wouldn't worry too much about that X-ray showing osteopenia and all that. As long as the child, the most important exercise for bones to prevent osteoporosis is walking, running.
Yes,
so any sort of activity you do against gravity, lifting your leg against the earth and putting it down, that's the most important, walking.
Okay.
And that's the most important exercise. I wouldn't worry about an X-ray report showing osteopenia. That is of no relevance at this age at all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks
Welcome.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. We can't see your name. There's just a bunch of letters on the
My
screen.
name is Geeta. My name is Geeta. I'm from
Geeta.
Bombay.
Okay.
My son is 38 years old, and he is taking this thyroid medicine for last almost 20 years, 18 or 20 years he's been taking, and his levels are almost under control. And like but very, very lazy he's become. He was a very good dancer. He used to do a lot of activities, high functioning. But now he doesn't want to do anything. Even his levels are okay and he's taking the medicine regularly. But still he's very lazy and doesn't want to do anything, not interested in anything.
I think, again, Rekha is the better person to answer these sort of mood disturbances that seem to happen, particularly in people in their 20s and 30s. You know, if the sleep is proper, there is no evidence of what we call sleep apnea, and the tiredness is not because of that. You know, the basic things like hemoglobin and all of that, then we have to think about other mood disturbances.
Because we have done MRIs, everything, you know, one geneticist said you do this, all the tests were done, everything is almost okay, only few medication supplements were required, those are given. And the only thing is that they say he needs to be motivated, but he doesn't want. We have tried our level best. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He was a very social person, but now he doesn't want to go anywhere and doesn't want to mix with people at all.
Yeah.
Jayashree, can I just answer that?
Please, please. Yes.
Please, first of all, your name is coming in a very garbled way.
Geeta Sejpal.
It is Sejpal. Geeta Sejpal.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Geeta. So don't worry. Just give me a call, Geeta. Let's talk about it, because I have been in touch with lots of people over there. That particular, because of the corona also has had a very, very adverse effect on our children. Let's be very clear that they have been cut away socially from a lot of people. They have been isolated. They are feeling, they can't understand exactly what has been happening around them. So let's get on to a particular group where we can discuss all the adults.
Okay.
And we can have a clinical psychologist and a psychiatrist advising us.
Yeah, he is going to a psychiatrist also.
Yeah, so we
depression.
can take a second opinion and find out if the medication is okay. So I will connect you with the psychiatrist also.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Yes. Ma'am, there are many questions. I can sum up in one sentence. That is, most of them have doubts regarding the other features like food craving, like obesity, like constipation, whether all these are related to thyroid profile or not. Most of the parents are concerned about these as per the questions I can see. Only thing is, as per Madam said, just make sure the thyroid profiles are normal. So once that is normal, then don't worry about that. Think of other reasons for obesity, for constipation, for the mood swings, all these. So there are so many overlapping features between your thyroid issue and again with Down syndrome itself. So thyroid profile is the best way to rule out that. Once that is over, you can concentrate in other reasons. Is it right, ma'am?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you missed my presentation. My last slide was that.
Yes,
that
the questions are like that. There are so many questions related to obesity, food craving, related to constipation, all these. I'm just summing up all the questions and telling to you.
Yeah. So the symptoms are very, very non-specific. That's what I had mentioned. Yes. So if you take, and the way I always explain is, if you take 100 people with symptoms of, we think are related to thyroid, constipation, hair fall, tiredness, lethargy, maybe about 2 to 5 of them, the symptoms will be due to thyroid. Remaining 95 people it will not be related to thyroid. So we have to work around that. So the symptoms are extremely non-specific, like you pointed out. Yeah.
Doctor, so once we start this thyroid medicine, we have to keep on giving, even the level comes down. That's what.
Yes. So to also to.
But she's an adult, I told you, 35-year-old.
Yes.
I'm talking about Ashrita.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the answer is yes. And I want to also reiterate what Dr. Rekha mentioned. Just because the level is normal or things are better, whatever be the medical condition, whether it is diabetes or blood pressure or thyroid or mood disturbances, whatever be the health issue, remember it is the medicine that is maintaining that level. So it is not like fever, where fever you give for 5 days, fever is gone, or you give an antibiotic, you give paracetamol, it's gone, you can stop. Other, what we call these chronic diseases or chronic conditions, it is not like that. It is because of the medicine that things are under control. So if at all you want to think about, is this tablet necessary? Can we reduce the dosage of the tablet? You have to work with the doctor. Always it will be a stepwise reduction, never a cold turkey stopping on one day. Because what will happen is the rebound problem that occurs is far more difficult to manage. So it is exactly what you said. It is because the thyroid dosage is correct that the thyroid level is in the normal range. We are not doing the test to see whether we can stop the tablet. We are doing the test to see if the dosage is correct. And the dosage is correct, so continue that dose.
Okay, doctor. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had checked the vitamin D also. It's also very less, 13.6. That day before yesterday, I checked it, 13.6. So I have to go to the doctor now.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the inside sitting.
Exactly,
inside,
the lockdown.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, doctor. Thank you so much.
If there are no further questions, can we wind up, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was
Pradeep, 1 minute. I think somebody has raised their hand. Just check. Mansi, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm actually Meera Purohit, mother of 22-year-old Manoj. He sweats all night. Just every night he sweats around his neck. That's all. So, is it related to thyroid, or is it related to Down syndrome, or what? I don't understand that. Can you just help me?
Check the thyroid. That's what I said even in my talk.
Yes, ma'am. I have already. He's on medication for 88 mcg every day.
Okay. If the thyroid level is in the normal range.
Yes, ma'am.
Then, it doesn't look like the dosage is too high. So sometimes when the thyroid dosage is too high, you can have excessive sweating. So that is something that you'll have to, if the thyroid level is well within the normal range, it is not because of thyroid.
Okay, can you suggest any remedy?
Sorry, your audio broke up. What did you say?
Can you just suggest any remedy for that, reducing the sweat around his neck? Can you suggest me something?
I can't think of any medicine as such. Sorry. There is no
Yes,
medicine
ma'am.
to just reduce the sweating, apart from saying, keep in a cool room, the usual thing. But look at the thyroid dosage. Maybe it needs to be reduced.
No, ma'am, I have already consulted the doctor, and the sweating, whatever I'm speaking about, is only around the neck, only that too in the night, when he's asleep. In the daytime, he's not sweating so much. But when he's asleep, at that time only his neck sweats a lot. He sweats a lot. That is why he's not able to sleep also.
Okay. So again, I would talk with the doctor because, like I said, there are lots of things. So if the dosage of the thyroid tablet is too high, it can, apart from causing excessive sweating, whether it's in the whole body or in the neck or in the night or day, it can also cause things like a little bit more anxiety. It can cause not a proper sleep.
Okay.
So sometimes we have to think about, like if there's been a change in the weight or a change in the dosage recently, if we find no other reason for the sweating, it may be worthwhile talking with the doctor and considering a lower dose for some time to see if it helps.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Excuse me, please, ma'am.
Ma'am. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
We have
Hello.
question? Yes.
Yes, sir. एक्चुअली मैम जब भी टेस्ट करवाते हैं तो उससे क्या 15 डेज पहले मेडिसिन बंद करना हो चाहिए?
नहीं, no.
बिल्कुल नहीं.
I'm glad you brought it up. Only जिस दिन आप टेस्ट करते हैं उस दिन तो टैबलेट के पहले तो टेस्ट करना है, लेकिन till the previous day तो टैबलेट लेना चाहिए. So again, I want to say that अगर महीने में 1-2 दिन भी अगर टैबलेट मिस हुआ, so it will affect the thyroid levels. So the other way to look at it is if you miss the tablet that month, let's say you missed the tablet 2-3 days, you were traveling, whatever, you couldn't get the tablet, don't do the test. Don't do the test because that itself will affect the levels. So don't do the thyroid blood test till you've been regular with the tablets for at least 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Pradeep, I think we can give Dr. Jayashree a break. She needs her coffee.
Not at all, no problem.
No coffee.
Happy to. No, I had my coffee before the session.
Okay. Is there any other pertinent question, Pradeep?
Not exactly, ma'am. Maybe we can catch
Hello.
up with all the questions later also.
Hello.
Apart
Most
from
of
the
the questions madam
cauliflower
has
and
answered.
Hello. Hello.
I think
Yeah, who's
someone
that?
is asking.
Hello. Yes,
Somebody?
ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nidhi?
Then
Nidhi?
yes, ma'am. This is Nidhi speaking.
Yeah. Go
मैम
ahead,
जैसे
Nidhi.
जिस दिन मुझे अभी मेरा बेटा 5 इयर्स का है, जैसे मुझे इसका टेस्ट जिस दिन कराना है उस दिन मॉर्निंग में मेडिसिन नहीं दूं इसको?
Yes, exactly. Tablet लेने के पहले तो खाली पेट में blood देना है. Then you can bring him back and then give the tablet.
ओके मैम. एंड मैम ये जब बॉर्न हुआ इस बच्चे का थायराइड 86 था और
Yes.
अब इसका 3 इयर्स से 1 और 2 चल रहा है. इज इट ओके?
That's normal. That means the dosage तो correct है.
यस मैम. 50 mg.
Yeah, yeah.
ओके मैम. थैंक यू.
Rekha, someone called Sandhya has raised a hand.
Yeah,
Did I
she's
finish
been up.
talking?
Yeah, her hand has been up. Sandhya Bilgi. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if not, then
Go
I
ahead.
didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. Anyway, thank you, doctor. I
Oh,
think I
her hand has been
covered-
up and she didn't realize it.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. No, I didn't realize it.
Doesn't matter. Gives you a
But,
chance to
yeah,
talk.
I get
Yeah.
a chance. Thank you so much, Rekha. And doctor, see that cauliflower tip, cabbage and cauliflower is very good. And the tip, you gave that salt is to be added at the end of cooking. I liked it very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for adults, my son is an adult, 30-year-old, and you mentioned about zinc and multivitamin tablets. Yes, we will start it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So shall we wrap up?
Vitamin D3 without checking. That is the question they have asked, ma'am. 30 years old gentleman.
Yeah.
Vitamin D3 without checking. So what we were mentioning is about supplementation, right, ma'am?
Yes.
The question
So,
was right.
yeah, I think that's a very important question. You can, provided you give a low dose. So anything less than about 600 to 1000 IU per day of vitamin D can be given. So the regular sort of tablets contain about 400 IU, 500. That level per day should be okay without necessarily checking a vitamin D level. It's unlikely to cause a toxicity. But where is it absolutely essential not to give vitamin D tablets without checking levels? Anybody who's had a history of kidney stones, or if you're having symptoms which may be due to vitamin D deficiency, like you have body pain, joint pain, muscle weakness. In all of this, it's important to check the calcium and vitamin D before, because in those conditions, we use a high dose. We use 60,000 IU per week, 60,000 units per week. So, but a safe level, and the way I would say, what I generally do is ask people to take a 60,000 IU tablet once in 2 months or 3 months. This is for adults I'm talking about. So that if you're going to take something without checking, make sure it does not exceeding around 600 to 800 IU per day.
Timing of consumption, ma'am, vitamin D3.
Vitamin D, usually you give it after dinner in the night. And thyroid tablet, I just want to mention, in general, we recommend that you take it on an empty stomach in the morning and wait for about half an hour before you have any other medicines. Make sure all of the vitamin tablets and thyroid are separated out at least by about, say, 3 to 4 hours or 6 hours. So better to take all of your other vitamins after lunch or dinner, because other tablets can interfere with the absorption of the thyroid tablet.
Is bedwetting a symptom, ma'am?
No, no. Unless overdosing maybe, but not usually, no. Bedwetting is not associated with thyroid. I just want to point out one more thing regarding thyroid. Some people have a lot of acidity issues if they take thyroid tablets first thing in the morning. If that is the case, you talk to the doctor. In that case, you may need to take it, say in the evening time. You need to make sure it's a relatively empty stomach. So say between breakfast and lunch, or between lunch and dinner, so that you've not had anything to eat for about 1 or 2 hours before and nothing to eat about 2 hours later. So sometimes we need to change the timing of the thyroid tablet if you have acidity on taking it right in the morning.
Okay. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Dr. Pradeep.
Shall we wind up? So
thank you. Thank you. Thank
wonderful
you so much.
session, ma'am. Very informative. And
Thank you.
thanks for your
Thank
patience.
you,
in
Jayashree.
answering
Thank
most
you,
of the
Pradeep.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Rekha.
Thank you both so much, and we will keep on calling you back
Sure.
because I'm sure your room was flooded with over 100 people, and we had to put you onto Facebook because this is of such an important issue, and I knew that everybody was waiting to discuss this with you. Thank you, Pradeep, for giving us your time, and we'll work together to create a sort of a format where which parents can fill in for before we meet up with Jayashree the next time. Thank you,
Sure.
Jayashree. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.